Rock and roll. Looky here. Looky here. It's not saying we're live yet.
Says we're live over here.
Oh, perfect. And literally as I said that, it popped up. Okay, so give us less than 1 minute. Anybody new? We are the Behind the Ears podcast. We talk about anything and everything Disney for everybody that made no sense. For everybody that is new here, we will stream Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. So tonight's show is going to be pretty good. Obviously, we're going to have to talk a little bit about wishes, but we will get into that in literally less than 30 seconds.
Oh, man, I just got inundated with some wonderful pictures from one of our listeners.
I did, too. It was so cool.
Oh,
okay. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Okay. This episode of Behind the Ears podcast is proudly sponsored by Fantastic Memories Travel and its Mouse Master Travel Group. The Mouse Master Travel Group focuses on Disney destination vacations, and the Mouse Master agents would love to take care of the stressful parts of your vacation planning, so you can focus on the more fun aspects of life. You can check them out at mousemastertravel.com. This episode of Behind the Ears podcast is proudly sponsored by Streaming Disney. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. I am Uncle Danny. Alongside of me tonight is Mr. Chris. And, before we get into our hellos, awesome job by Streaming Disney to be able to capture wishes this entire week. Even with all the craziness going on, the cell towers going down, they were smart enough and they did their due diligence. And look, it paid off. They had 3 people streaming it tonight. 2 of them went down because of cell service, but you were able to catch one full one that was over on the Streaming Disney page and also their Twitter page at Streaming Disney. So congratulations on, being able to keep up with everything. And boy, oh boy, is it a sad day. But we will get into that in just a hot second. So, Mr. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm living a dream. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, what can I say? Today was actually my Friday, and it was one of those things where I was like, cool. We have the celebration of wishes. And, man, I started seeing some pictures at it was like 4 o'clock my time. And wow, all I gotta say is wow, the crowds that started, it was just of epic proportion. I gotta be honest with you, Danny, I don't know if I would have wanted to really have been there in the midst of all that. I honestly don't know. And I've been there during some of the busiest times in the summer.
Yeah, I saw people lining up around 4 o'clock, and I was like, oh, okay, well, those are, going to be the diehard fans. And then some of our listeners, thank you all of you who reached out to us today, and also good job, everybody at Streaming Disney, once again, who were able to put up some of those pictures around like 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern. There were spots in Magic Kingdom and the new grass area. You could not move. I could not believe it. And, the first thing that came to my mind was, I wonder how many of them were AP holders or were there for an extended period of time. And you may say, hey, why do you think that? Well, the reason is if you're lining up, say, at 4 or 5 o'clock, you just lost, depending on how long you were there, let's say anywhere from 3 to 5 hours waiting. That's a huge chunk of your day taken out of Magic Kingdom when that's the most expensive park.
And I'll tell you right now, you have got to have something special to sit there and wait for fireworks at that time of the night. I'll tell you right now, my daughter cheered down Main Street for one of the taping of the Christmas Day parades back several years ago, and I waited in the same spot for like 6-7 hours to wait and watch for her to come down, and I pretty much wasted the entire day at the Magic Kingdom. And I said to myself, I love my daughter. I would do it again for her, but I would never do it again for almost anything else. And as I said, like you said, you had to be a diehard to be there tonight. And we actually had some people sending us, spots where like where they were at, showing us food pictures, all those types of things, saying, yeah, I'm celebrating by just being here. This is where I'm at. I've got myself a Casey's hot dog with macaroni and cheese on it, and things like that. It was really pretty cool just to see what people were doing and making it festive. Because yeah, you're right. People had to be there, and they knew they were going to sacrifice a good chunk of their day. But man, it was monumental. It's just one of those cases.
You were saying about being a diehard, and I would consider, you and myself are both diehards. I would consider probably a large majority of the people in this room right now, whether you're a podcast fan, you're a fan of Behind the Ears podcast, whatever the case is, you guys are still somewhat diehard Disney fans.
Oh, yeah.
Some more than others, but hey, you're still going out of your way to tune in to whether it was Wishes or us. It doesn't really matter. Right. Here's the big thing. I'm a diehard through and through. Right. I was not waiting that long. I love Wishes, but guess what? In the time of era that we're in, in 2017, when you have fantastic sites like you're watching on right now, the streaming Disney site that can bring it to you literally while you're sitting on your couch or maybe somewhere else in the park, I understand it's one thing to see it in real life. I get that. But, this is not like where it was, let's say, 10 years ago, where if you didn't see it or you didn't capture it on, your big handheld JVC recorder, you didn't have it. Now, literally, you could watch Wishes for the rest of your life because what wonderful thing about, the internet and the cloud, it ain't going nowhere. It's there.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned a little bit about this yesterday. And I'm sure that tomorrow with Happily Ever After, it's also going to be equally as well streamed. This is Chrissy's techie bit of the day. What people don't realize is that cell networks and Wi-Fi networks have a finite amount of signal or bandwidth, as we call it, that could absorb at any one given period of time. And I am sure that there were probably thousands of people that were streaming that, all from all different kinds of sites, and it just saturated the networks, and that's not a cool thing. Trust me. I work with networks all the time, and when they go down or when they get saturated, nothing goes right. There is no love in that. But, as they say, chance favors the prepared. And when there are multiple streams, there are multiple, you have to go down several times before you have a total complete failure. And there are a lot of really good streams over here that people were able to see. I saw a lot of people on my feed saying, I can't find a stream that works. But there was a lot of people over here that actually found one. But you know what? So such is life.
Kelly brings up a point, and it kind of, contradicts what I just said. It's not the same watching it on a computer, even for a diehard. And I get where you're coming from, but if you're talking about a max capacity of, let's say I would say it probably was close to a sellout in that park, but let's say a little bit lower, we'll say between 55 and 60,000 people. You got to think a large majority of that group of people was probably there to watch Wishes. I would say, right? Okay. Sure. Is it the same experience dealing with people holding their iPads above you, getting run over by strollers, the long lines, everybody touching each other and rubbing up against each other? It was 95 degrees in Florida today, so it was a warm one out there. So
they were testing deodorant strength out there today.
So to me, is it really the same? That's my question. I mean, I don't know. To me, if I was in, like she said, a couple people said, they were in South Carolina, Sarasota, Florida. I saw someone say Jacksonville. Okay. I mean, I probably would have been one of those diehards. It's like, you know what? I'm heading out there right now. But, for the people that I know that traveled, that literally had to get on a plane to go just for Wishes, I commend you, because that's a heck of a price tag to be that crowded. And to me, I don't experience, Disney's. I went to a Halloween party. Here's a quick story. I went to a Halloween party one time, and there's other podcasters that have talked about it because they were at similar Halloween party that same night, where they oversold the park by 5,000 people. I've heard stories of where they've oversold the ticketed event over by 10,000 people. So you're paying a lot of money to walk in there and just be bombarded with everything. And yeah, great point. I saw Trisha say, Erica said, think about it. Imagine the wait time for like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Here's even better. Imagine the wait time for Peter Pan. You might have done it in 20 minutes.
Oh, but think about it for a second, though. The traffic behind the castle, I bet you any money, was almost as bad as the traffic in front of the castle, because you're able to still see they do have part of Fantasyland blocked off for safety purposes around the castle and so on. But the thing is that what people don't realize is that a lot of the fireworks are actually fired off behind Fantasyland. So if you're able to be back in that area, I bet you it was extremely crowded to get a closer look at those fireworks. I've never actually seen it, or any fireworks, I should say, behind the castle. But some people say it is a really awesome sight. I don't know. But I could only imagine that it was absolutely crazy, insane. But, we'll have to see.
Well, let's see what Ian from Streaming Disney is putting up here. From our end, we hired extra streamers tonight, knowing the cell towers would be stressed. Of the 3, 2 dropped, 1 did survive, and as it advertised, that stream, along with others, would be available to watch on streamingdisney.com. The stream broke 4,000 viewers. Wish everyone got to see it. We don't take drop streams lightly around here. Trust me, I'm basically on the edge of my of the heart attack when a stream goes down, but we did everything we could. And and he's 100% right. We were chatting before the show yesterday, and he's running a tight ship around here on Streaming Disney, and it is frustrating as a business owner. And even you saw Chris and myself, if you were with us last night, Chris had a bit of issue going on in his hometown where he had to drop off. And even as podcasters, it hurts. You don't want to deal with it. But at the same time, we appreciate all of you guys for not only understanding, Ian's issues, understanding our issues. That's why we have backup plans. And, just like we have ours, Ian made sure that they went out and hired streamers. And look at it. He hired 3. 2 of them didn't work. So, there was a very good chance that third one didn't work. So let's just all knock on wood and, thank goodness that it was able to work. So, once again, fantastic job by Streaming Disney, because I was able to watch the final wishes on my way home. And, it's like I said, you could always go back and watch it, but there's something about just watching it live, knowing that there's people standing in Magic Kingdom watching fireworks that you're watching on your phone.
But you know what? That brings a point. And let's use that as a little bit of a segue here for a second. Right now there are probably people. No, it's not even a probably. There are people right now that are still trying to get through Main Street USA to either hit a bus or get one of the ferries or something like that, to one of the resort hotels around there, or anywhere for that matter. And that those buses and the line for the monorail and all that other jazz it's just insane packed right now. Now, some people say this is why they don't like to go to Disney, because of the crowds. I say, hey, you know what? Take advantage of the situation. A lot of those people are heading back to their resort hotels. Take advantage of the rides right now. I was joking around with Danny before the show, everybody, about saying, you know what I would do? Grab myself some Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets and just sit there and watch everybody, go by. Okay? And then
people watching.
Just people watch. It's one of the coolest things in the world to do. And then when you're done with those Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets, there's only one thing to do. Go get more Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets and then slowly walk your way out of the parks. Because by the time you're done with your Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets, you will be right exiting the park. And so it's just one of those cases. It's going to take a little while. A little while ago, I actually did an episode and where I talked about being mentally prepared as much as physically prepared for your trip, especially during very peak hours, very peak times. I talked a little bit about dealing with the heat, mentally preparing yourself for the heat. Because let's face it, sometimes people are not really realizing how warm and muggy it can possibly be, especially in the middle of summer. August. I mean, people always call August, the time where, the devil himself visits Florida and just it gets so hot and muggy. And, Danny was saying it was in the 90s and it's probably still in the upper 80s, lower 90s right now. And so it's one of those cases where it's like, be prepared mentally. Yes, you can prepare yourself physically. You have your sunscreen. You keep hydrated. You keep a hat on. You try to, take some breaks during the day. But you need to mentally prepare. Just know that it's going to be crowded. And if you go in there with a certain expectation, you will still be able to experience magic like you never ever believed. And, you take your time going out of the parks. I understand, and at times, especially if you have, younger kids, they're going to get tired. They're going to get cranky. I understand it. Been there, done that. I've got a few T-shirts. But the fact of the matter is, you just kind of have to kind of mentally prepare. And also, you know what? Try to talk to your kids. If your kids are at the age where they can understand, some of those things, take time to talk to them and say, hey, listen, we're going to go see the fireworks show, and it's going to get kind of late, and it's still going to be kind of hot. But we're going to prepare ourselves by getting some water, getting some snacks, and let's just make the best of it. But we know, let them know it's going to be warm. You wouldn't believe how well that a lot of kids will actually react to at least letting them know what's going to happen. And if they fuss or whatever else like that, maybe you can, like even beforehand, you can try to see what they can use or what they would need or want in order to help make their time more magical. In fact, my wife and I, we would actually, when my son was younger, we would actually ask him, when he would get fussy, we would use the phrase, what can we do to help make this day more magical for you? And it would be amazing what he would say, and we would take care of it. And you know what? Boom, he would snap out of it. And it wouldn't really be that big of a difference or a big of a change. Kind of preparing your kids, talking with them, avoid the meltdown type of thing before you actually physically melt down in the Florida heat. And I bet you any money, it would actually make for a better and, dare I even say, longer day at times.
Yeah. Or, you could do what Ed does and go get some Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets. Tell them Behind the Ears podcast sent you. I mean, they're not going to know what that means, but we do. And I just want to see people's reactions. Every time I walk in, I'm like, hey, it's the guys from Behind the Ears podcast. They're like, what can I get you? I don't know who you are, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those cases. I mean, Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets, for those of you who don't know, is kind of a unofficial sponsor of ours. And unofficial in the way of they don't know about it, because they are seriously Casey's and Casey's Corn Dog Nuggets. It's just awesome stuff. I'll tell you right now, this is kind of a joke, but a little bit of seriousness. I've had some great conversations with my daughter at the end of a very long Disney day, just hanging out with my daughter, having a snack of corn dog nuggets and fries and a drink. Yeah, there's something as simple as that, sitting there watching the castle change color at night before they finally try to kick you out. Oh, yeah. Total memory maker type stuff, man. And I plan on doing it again this summer with my daughter. And right after that, she's going to grad school, and all of a sudden in a few years, she's getting married and
things are changing. Just like wishes.
Wow, man.
Things change, man. They get better, though.
Well, yeah, that's right. They're better. That's right. It's getting better. She's going to grad school and going to become a doctor, and she's going to get, married to an awesome guy. This is all going to be better. Yes. Okay. There you go.
So, going off of what Jason had popped up there and said, he goes, it's kind of funny. No more hearing people complaining about 2 a.m. happily ever after tests. And it's so true because I can't, after we record the show, Chris and myself will hang out, we'll talk for a little bit. And then we kind of, we wind down. We both have to wake up for work in the morning. But, I keep my phone on loud. So I'll hear certain beeps and I know what it is. Sometimes I'll roll over and look at Facebook and, it's cool seeing the posts of, oh, look what I saw from Happily Ever After. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, I don't want to see it. It's going to spoiler. Spoilers don't bother me. And, but seeing so many people, you're just upset about it. I mean, there was clear warnings everywhere. Now, granted, when you booked your trip, say 180 days ago, you didn't know that, this was going to be happening. But I mean, I would probably just feel bad for the people at the Contemporary. I feel like they probably were the most burdened by it.
I feel bad for the people that actually live right behind the Magic Kingdom. I mean, like non-cast member people who live there type of thing.
You know that going in, though.
Well, yeah, but sometimes you don't realize it at 2 a.m.
That's true.
I mean, that's a little different. I mean, yeah, I know that if I lived right there, you're going to see and hear the fireworks, and it just becomes a normal part of life. But if you're, snoozing really good, and all of a sudden you hear boom, 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 and,
that could be rough. But it's kind of like if you listen, let's say you live like in an inner city, and do you get used to those sounds? Granted, and now it's not a normal occurrence at 2 a.m. But what happens if you're an early sleeper? You fall asleep around 9. Can you sleep through it like you can with, say, living next to an airport or a train station, or living in I live close to New York City, so dealing with cabs and buses, everybody honking, you know, after a while, like it's kind of like you just get used to it. I mean, not saying at 2 a.m. you would get used to something like that, but something, food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those cases. But I think that really is kind of. I think that's just something everybody would know about. I guess I would probably just get used to it. I don't know. I mean, after all, there are neighbors around me that fire out fireworks in the middle of the night for no apparent reason. But, go figure. I mean, the week of 4th of July, I mean, the whole week.
You understand that, though.
Well, I understand that. I don't care for it, but it's one of those things. I guess I had to be mentally prepared for knowing that summer is right around the corner and that sort of thing. They hung signs around the Contemporary. Okay. And that's excellent. And Ed's going to post some pictures and copy video later out to the site. Awesome. Yeah, Jason, it's all about living here. I guess, you know what? That is something that, Danny and I have actually talked about moving to Disney. I mean, not together, but,
we could share one big house.
Actually,
pool our money together. I mean,
our money to get it. We can get a house at Golden Oak. Wait.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't make enough. Yeah. So, I can maybe afford the garage. That's really about it.
I don't think I could afford the garage. But the funny part about it is, we've talked about how our life plans include relocating to Florida, preferably Central Florida. I mean, I have something of a 10-year plan after my son gets out of college and so on and so forth for us to, downsize and think about them, because I could start finishing out my career and think about, retirement type of thing. I mean, I'm not that old, but I still like to think about that. I'd like to be able to move one more time before I actually have to have someone else move me, if you know what I'm saying. The fact that I'm talking about moving my stuff, not what I'm talking about moving my stuff, not talking about. Never.
Okay, I thought you were talking. I was like, wait, what?
No, gee willikers. Anyway, but the fact is, I guess it is a part of Florida life. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you're not going to hear fireworks from Disney, you're going to hear fireworks from somewhere else. Universal. You're going to possibly hear noises from the Cape during certain launches and stuff like that. I know it's far away, but sometimes I've heard that you can hear not necessarily the whole roar or thunder thing, but the sonic boom and stuff like that happens during takeoff and stuff. And it is just one of those things. But yes, we have talked about that sort of thing. We do both want to relocate down to Disney, so it is. I'm
a little sooner than Chris, but you don't know what life brings tomorrow. I mean, I could be in Florida tomorrow. I could be in Florida and never. So I mean.
Yeah,
I have a little more wiggle room than he does. So,
hey, is that a fat joke?
That's it. Well, I am a big guy too, but
okay.
I don't have the extra, the wife, the kids, a house, a mortgage. I just got me in my bedroom.
I'm not going to call them wiggle room. Oh no! I'm hoping. I know. She's
on the other side of that wall over there.
No, she's not. She's not home tonight. So, and she's not in a place where she can watch this later. Oh wait, this is going to be up later.
Yeah, you're done.
We can't edit video.
Nope. Problem with going live.
By the way, everybody, just to let you know, if you want to know a little bit more about Uncle Danny and Mr. Chris, you can go out to our website over at behindearspodcast.net. We have a frequently asked questions section there. If you want to learn a little bit more about us, one of the things I listed in there is, yes, we are a totally live show. We do not script our shows, even though we know what we're going to talk about. So what you see here is what you get. We are the same here as we are, live on the show as where we are in person and regular life. We screw up here, guess what? It shows up on the show later on iTunes and Google Play. So that just makes us a little bit more self-aware of what we're saying at times. I've actually said things that actually have accidentally spoiled vacation plans with my daughter. I was trying to keep surprises from her, and I didn't realize she was watching.
I did.
Yeah, he knew it. I said it. She posted something up, and I had a no crap moment.
I just watched the bus come, and I just didn't say nothing.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Yeah. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But anyway, Danny, one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, I know that you're going to be going down there. You're under the 30-day mark now, aren't you?
29, baby.
Okay, man. Now, the thing is that we talked about being mentally prepared, and we know that you're going obviously to Pandora. Yes. For at least one or maybe even 2 days. I don't know. Just one?
Well, actually, we did a show. If you guys want to go back on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you guys download podcasts from, and if you don't download podcasts and you're an Apple user, you can always go to iTunes. It's completely free. And if you're an Android user on your phone, you can go and do it at Podcast Addicts app. We're in the process of launching a couple new things where you can go find it, or just go on BehindTheEarsPodcast.net. And because she wrote BehindTheEars.net. No, it's Behind the Ears Podcast.net. If you go on that website, you could download everything. You can read all our blogs and everything. But we did a show back probably about 2 weeks ago. It happens to be a fan favorite, which me and Chris were surprised the first time around we did it. And whenever I go, I book, I make my reservations, and then I book our Fast Passes live with everybody. And sometimes I take people's input, sometimes I don't. We see what it is. But, the reason I brought it up was because freaking me out over there.
Sorry.
Originally I was only doing 1 day in Pandora over in Animal Kingdom, and I was still going over to MGM. And over the past couple days, I haven't even brought this up to Chris yet. I'm actually considering about not doing, because I'm only there for 5 days.
True.
I'm actually considering not doing MGM while I'm there.
Well,
I might just go real quick because I have to go on Tower of Terror.
Well, I think you do too. But at the same time, it's one of those cases where I don't think that would be a bad plan, because you're going to be absorbing a lot of other really cool things. I mean, there's not a lot now at studios. I mean, in a couple of years, it's going to be jam-packed awesomeness. But, the fact of the matter is, spending more time at Animal Kingdom and, spending more time at Magic Kingdom is probably the way to go. Well, Epcot as well. I mean, it's basically you take those 5 days, you split it out between 3 of the major parks, you spend a half day at studios, and you'll do great.
Yes, the thing is because, you know what it is I literally can do – now, guys, I know it's Hollywood Studios. It's not. It's just like I know it's Disney Springs. To me, it's MGM and Downtown Disney. It's just old soul.
Yeah, it is. He does it all the time. Everybody, and just
it's not going to change. So don't even bother trying to change it. It's not going to happen. Maybe one day. I doubt. I could literally I can combine MGM and Epcot in 1 day, because I don't really like the rides at Epcot. The only thing I plan on doing at Epcot this time is Frozen, because I have the Fast Pass, because obviously I want to do it for the show. And I would like to do Ellen's Energy, because I have a feeling it's going away.
Wait, you're not going to do Soarin'?
I don't like the new one, tell you the God honest truth. And I'm not waiting on that line. You got to remember, it's tier system. I chose Frozen.
A very good point. And I know you haven't done Frozen yet. I haven't done Frozen yet. I don't know if I'm going to do Frozen this trip either, to be honest with you.
Oh, no?
I don't know. I mean, I have no hate for it. I just want everybody to understand. I have no. I don't. It's not that I don't like it. I'm waiting for the crowd to kind of go down a little bit. I mean, if there's only like a 20-minute wait, I'll go ahead and give it a try. My son will probably be kicking and screaming the entire time, but I will say this: I'm a fan of the movie Frozen. I really liked it. It is an amazing movie. I managed to get one of the original movie Slick posters. It happens to be hanging down in the Gus Van Omniplex. I ranted and raved. I just raved on how awesome that soundtrack is, and I still like the song "Let It Go." Yeah. There you go, everybody. I like it. So,
I'll tell you the honest truth. We're seeing a lot of people saying here personally, it's more George for kids. A lot of people are saying,
sure,
I didn't like it. And you know what? I'll probably be completely honest with you. I've watched it. I know what the ride's about. But, being a Disney podcaster, how can I say I don't?
You're gonna take one for the team.
I gotta go do it. I have, but it's just like I knew walking into the new test track years ago, I wasn't gonna like it. It's just because I like the old school hot and cold room. To me, they dumbed down the ride completely.
I will say I know you've mentioned that before, and I agree with you every single time. That is, while as much as I like it now, I will say the hot and cold room part was actually really, really cool
to me. And that was the main part of that ride why I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I hate to interrupt you, but there was a comment that basically said, was it Body Wars and make it Inside Out? Was that, did I just see that?
Boom.
There we go. Oh, they should make Body Wars into an Inside Out pavilion. Tracy, that is one of the best ideas I have heard in a long time. I know they took out the ride vehicles for Body Wars, so it's no longer there. I mean, it was there for a long, long time, but there was just I won't say recently. I said recently, last couple of years. You know, did they do that? That would have been such a cool ride. That would have been a great repurposing of it. Anyway, I won't go down that path. I just wanted to give that a shout out.
You know, and I see a lot of people, you know, bringing up, you know, Frozen's a great ride. It's not that bad, but, you know, they should have kept Maelstrom. They should have moved it over to, you know, MGM. Okay, I get where you're coming from, but you have to look at it from a business aspect. Maelstrom was getting no attendance. It was a dead attraction. And let's be honest, as many people claim they love Maelstrom, how many times do people walk by it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it later.
And no one watched the film afterwards. No one watched the film afterwards.
And that's what my biggest fear is with Ellen, because it's a 45-minute attraction. I walked in with my buddy. Now, I went down in March I dragged my best friend down there, and he's not the biggest Disney fan. So I tried not to overwhelm him. And I was showing him on the map. He's like, oh, let's go see Ellen's Energy. I said, okay. We walk in there, and we're watching the pre-show, and all of a sudden they go, oh, by the way, it's a 45-minute show. He looked at me, he goes, I'm not sitting here for 45 minutes. And I was like, okay, but I knew I was coming back in June, and I did run the risk of not being able to see it. But to me, I really think if you know what you like in the parks and what you don't like in the parks, and you are good about it, and if you're a small party like me traveling alone, I can actually do Epcot and MGM in one day.
Well, and also being a single person, you know, a single guest, you know, you can do a lot of things faster. Back in 2008, right around the Mouse Fest time in the winter of 2008, my wife and I went by ourselves, and we were amazed on what we were able to accomplish by being just even, you know, a couple without kids. And you know, I'm not saying negativeness. I'm not saying anything negative about, you know, having kids, you know, drags you down. It's just everybody does Disney differently. That's our motto here on the show. And it just basically, because it personifies everything, you know, whether or not you're a single person, whether or not you are going with a spouse or a significant other, you know, it's going to be different then. You're going to go with one kid, it's different. Going to go with two kids, it's different. Go with an infant, go with a teenager, go with 4 or 5 kids. It's a big difference. And, you know, all of them require a little bit of planning, different types of planning. And you just kind of have to, you know, kind of make sure you have a plan that fits your family's needs.
What we have here, I left the line to pee because, hey, you were drinking adult beverages in Disney World. That's perfectly great. Never went back. Then I heard they were removing it. Not worth it when I was online, but when I heard it was being taken away, suddenly it mattered. Absolutely. I saw other people comment and say Tom Sawyer's Island. Emma, I believe that was Emma.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know what? And it's the same thing, and I am very guilty of it because I sit here and rant and rave for the past, let's say, 60 episodes about how I hate the Great American Speedway. It needs to go. I've openly said make it a parking lot for strollers. That's how bad I don't like that ride. The minute it goes away, there's going to be that moment where you're like,
remorse.
Come on, did you really have to take it away? You know, like, because you start remembering memories as a kid. You realize that you'll never be able to go back on it again. It's one thing to complain about it, but when they actually do it, you're like, ooh, wait a minute.
Well, it's also okay. So I want to read what Tracy just said here. If they would repurpose EEA into a school field trip for science with the land, it would be amazing. Ellen's Energy Adventure. I had to figure out what that was there for a second. The TLA kind of throw me. TLA equals 3-letter acronym. I teach about everything Ellen talks about. If there was a way to interact with guests or show the video in my class, it would bring new life to the ride. Hey, I bet you any money there's a whole video of it on YouTube.
I watched it the other day.
There you go. There's that answer. You know, it's kind of interesting because it's like we talk about the one that got away. You know, if you say to yourself, I really want to ride that, and you don't, chances are the next time you go, it won't be there. And I'm sorry I'm repeating myself from a relatively recent show, but I remember the last time I actually saw Figment from a distance.
That's exactly what, if you want to read this comment right here, do you think they'll keep Figment? I hope they do. The original was the best, but come on, you can't get rid of Figment. But let's be real. Yeah. Figment's not there anymore.
Well, I mean, Bailey's got a point, but I'm also going to guess that, Bailey, you either have met Figment before, or you're a big fan of Figment during the rides, etc. The fact of the matter is that, the first time I was, there and I saw Figment, we were on our way to something else. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go and see Figment the next time. Nope. Figment was gone. And that started I won't say the demise, but the slow deterioration of ImageWorks and the Imagination area. Figment does have a pretty big following. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm one of them, to be honest. And I want to show you guys something. I want to go show you something. I have these books from Disney Imagineers. One's called The Imagineering Way. One's called The Imagineering Workout. Okay? They talk about using your imagination. Who do they use in their illustrations? Figment. I mean, seriously, everybody. When the Imagineers themselves use Figment as a part of their illustrations for their book, that means that Figment really does have a strong place in Disney history. And I hope they realize that as they reimagine the Imagination Pavilion. I'm just saying that. By the way, The Imagineering Way and Imagineering Workout, awesome books. I'm not getting paid or anything like that. I didn't write them, anything else. I just read them. Awesome, awesome books.
Robert, honestly, right now, there's no announcement of what's leaving, because they're claiming nothing's leaving.
Yeah, they're claiming. I mean, granted, I think everybody's talking about Epcot being the next big refurb, so to speak. Would totally agree. It's up for grabs now, but no one's talking about anything, and it's going to be years before they do anything. What's the idea?
The Rainbow Tunnel. Oh,
yes. And you know what? I recently saw that video.
I did. That's why, because I don't remember that at all.
I never saw it. It was all closed down by the time I actually got to see it.
Okay, but I remember seeing the video and I was like, "Oh, my parents claim I was there. I don't remember. I think they're lying to me."
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, and so here's my take. I wouldn't necessarily panic yet, even though there was people talking on Facebook and other social media platforms about how there was a survey going around about that basically insinuated, "Do you know who Figment is?" And that a lot of people today don't really know the background behind Figment. They only see it as a ride that's kind of off to the side. And I'm hoping Disney realizes that if you brought, seriously, take away Mission Space. We won't go there, Emma. But the thing is that, you bring back Figment in a reimagined way, and I bet you any money it could be a huge, big thing. Look how they brought back Captain EO of all things for so long. Seriously. Now, granted, I don't have a hate for EO. Okay, I saw it because I never got to see it. When I was a little kid, and it was like, okay, fine. My kids did not like it. In fact, I always joked around with my son that if he didn't behave, I was going to go take him to go see Captain EO.
All right. So 2 things. First off, I love this. I wish they would build a Ratatouille attraction at Walt Disney World just like the one they have in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
I would not build the same attraction because I'm not the biggest fan of it. From what I have not been to Paris, so I'm only going by video. But I love the idea of it. Okay? Yeah. That's not the main point. Here's the main point. I see a lot of people loving Figment, and I don't have nothing against Figment. Not the biggest fan. I don't hate him. To me, it is what it is. Here's my question. Let's go back. My sister got married in Disney in 2011. So let's go back. We'll go back 6 years. I do not remember a following for Figment 6 years ago like there is today. So my point is Figment gaining speed here? And you're seeing more backlash because it's no longer there, and people are starting to see the signs of him getting phased out. Is that really what it is?
I think so. I mean, it's kind of regaining. It's the idea of a threat and of having it leave. totally gone forever type of thing, where all of a sudden the following is starting to build back up again. The fact of the matter is that the current generation of younger Disney guests don't know really who Figment is. That's one thing. But those of us who have been there, who have been going to Disney for the past 10 to 15 years, we understand, and more so, even going beyond that. I say 10 or 15 years, that's my span. I'm just hoping that Disney realizes it. I saw some people make mention to the point of, really reimagine Figment. I mean, if there's not a really cool way of putting Figment in, because Figment is supposed to be the figment of your imagination, that would be great. Who is Figment?
There you go, perfect.
Samara, give me 1 second. I got perfect illustration. 1 second.
Let's see. Sarah says, I have childhood memories of Figment from 1989 and Dreamfinder. Walk around the park with Figment. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it becomes a nostalgia thing. I think people loved Figment in the 80s, got bored with him, and then missed him when they redid the ride. Absolutely. Okay. And Samara, there is Figment. Explain Figment. What is he? Is he a dragon? Okay.
Well, he is a figment of your imagination. This is what you get when you start really thinking about things outside of the box. He is a purple dragon of sorts. Here, let me get a close-up here. And he has one of the coolest voices in the world. I will not even try to imitate him. I highly recommend that if you've never been to the Imagination Pavilion, go ahead and give it a ride. It's really kind of cool. Kind of introduces him. But yeah,
the pavilion's still open. I don't know.
Well, it is, but it's just one of the cases. Here, let me go ahead. And, yeah, I mean, he's really cool. He is a purple dinosaur, and they do have it's over at Epcot. Basically, it's like if you're walking over to go to Soarin', before you get to Soarin', just go to your left, go to the Imagination Pavilion, and there you can see Journey to Your Imagination with Figment.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, Samara, Figment is somewhat in the parks. You're going to see a lot of pins of him, and if I'm not mistaken, he was basically the mascot for the Flower and Garden Festival this year.
Yes, that is absolutely true, and yeah, he was big in that. He had a lot of Figment stuff involved with the Flower and Garden show this year.
So Robert brings up an interesting question. What's the one ride in Epcot you would update? So he's not saying add something. He's not saying take away something. He's saying update. Oh,
it's a simple. Here's my simple answer. Update Mission Space. No, wait, hold on. Hear me out. By the way, I've always said update the Imagination Pavilion. I'm leaving that out for a second. Change Mission Space so they can be either A, interactive, or B, just different every time you write it. You have the technology. You can do it so much differently. You can make it an interactive experience. You can make it a random experience. Update it so that the screens work really, really well. I think you would actually have a blast on it. It doesn't always have to be, gargantuan spinning vomit machine. Did I say that out loud? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'll admit it. I've never tossed my cookies on it, but I'll just say that right now. But I think that has the most potential without totally leveling the whole thing. Just saying. What's yours, man? Think about that.
It's going to be very unpopular.
Well, go ahead. I mean, seriously. I mean,
Spaceship Earth.
Say what?
I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm not saying change it. I think it just needs a tad bit of updating. It's a little old in there. It's a little dated.
But you know what? Okay, wait a second. The last time they changed it, and they did a really big refurb on it, is when they changed the voices from Jeremy Irons to Judi Dench, who's the current voice. They kind of refreshed things and so on and so forth on the inside. And also that's when they started able to take your pictures and things like that. What would you add to it?
I'm not saying add it. All right. So when you're climbing up the hill and you're getting to a point where the stars are, and you're actually going up, and there's glass casing on both sides, and you see like the desks and everything like that, when you're supposed to be getting closer to the future.
Sure.
I think that could use a little updating, and I think honestly, the graphics on your screen need to be updated. Like that corny face they put on like the scuba diver. Like, I understand it's your face, but it's 2017. We have virtual reality, people. You're telling me we can't? I mean, now the only problem with it is, I mean, I'm sure that it would be hard to do because of how often that screen is being turned on, turned off, and the cameras are capturing at night. I get all that. You asked me a question, I just gave you the. It doesn't have to be a realistic answer. That's just how I felt about it.
They can at least capture my face. It doesn't look like.
Yeah.
What was that? What was it? Comment you just put up on the screen?
Invite astronauts as special guests at Mission Space and NASCAR drivers to be special guests at Test Track. I can see the NASCAR part. I don't think you'll get astronauts to Mission Space just because of, having NASA right down the road. Yeah, they want to keep their astronauts in-house to draw you there. They don't want to give Disney any more.
I would also say instead of just NASCAR, I mean, any sort of auto sports or motorsports personalities. I mean, obviously with General Motors' big tie-in, they would have to probably be, have a GM tie-in to it, type of thing. I think that would be cool. I always thought that it'd be awesome if they actually had some, GM designers there. So, I mean, after all, you're supposed to be designing your own car, right? It would be cool to, have people there that actually had their hands in on some of the development of some of those vehicles there. Now, I realize not everybody's a fan of General Motors type stuff. I'm not. You're not. I own several GM vehicles, but my next vehicle will most likely not be.
We can all agree it's better than Dodge.
No joke. No joke. But we won't go there because some people might say those are fighting words. But they could do a physics Olympics at Epcot with all the engineering college students. Oh, that would be a really cool thing. You know what? I mean, that would be kind of something that you can do over at the Wonders of Life Pavilion. Just so.
You know what?
Tie it into drinking around the world too.
Tracy, do us a favor if you get a chance, if you don't mind, because you've had a different outlook than what me and Chris look at a couple things. Shoot us an email over at behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. I want to have a conversation with you about some of the teaching aspects of things that you were talking about. Husband works at GM. It's really cool that they have a suite at the Test Track ride for GM.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
They do. The funny part is I saw pictures of the inside of it, and it is kind of cool. First off, I want a full disclaimer. When I was growing up, I wanted to actually work for General Motors in research and development. I wanted to design vehicles. I still have a love for cars, which was why I love Test Track. A little bit about me. While I'm a computer engineer by trade, I'm a big gearhead. I not only maintain, but I restore vehicles. I have an antique vehicle myself. I'm a big gearhead. So there's a lot of things like that, especially kind of ties in with my affinity for GM vehicles. I was brought home from the hospital in a brand new Chevy Impala. So go figure. But yeah, I mean, I heard about that suite too. It's really kind of cool.
So Bailey says, I say Ellen's video needs to be updated at least. Don't get me wrong. I love the video and I'm shocked that it has lasted this long, but would you guys change the video?
Yes, I would.
But see, I think if you change the video, you're changing the whole ride.
Not necessarily. You can update that video.
You're keeping Bill Nye on that?
The interesting part, I'll say probably so, but the thing is that, and this is, I'm not making this a political statement in any way, shape, or form. I think Bill Nye is no longer Bill Nye of the Bill Nye the Science Guy fame. I think he's obviously a great science influencer. I have a deep respect for the man as a scientist. As someone that has made a big impact in millions of young people's lives to, pursue, STEM studies, et cetera, like that. I'm just not sure he can actually revisit that role in the same way that he did then. He did such a great job. And I think Ellen's Energy Adventure is pretty informative as it is, without getting into areas of science and philosophy that could very well cause people to cause disagreement.
Tracy would like to know, have you guys been in the suite above the American Adventure?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I have not. However, I mean, because here's the funny part. I've never been there during a time where that suite was actually open, such as because there were times where if you were a Disney Visa card holder, you were able to go over there and to have a place to take a break. I have though been at the DVC Lounge, which is in the Imagination Pavilion that we were just talking about.
I want to go to that so bad.
So I'll tell you one, Danny. I'll tell you
one
what.
Of these days.
One of these days, hopefully we'll work it out. No, I haven't had a chance to actually get there.
All right, well, staying right here. Real quick, we'll go to this comment and we'll work our way up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Robert wants to know. We'll stay in Epcot. What do you guys? What should be changed in the near future or added in Epcot? Whether it's a new country added or a new ride, basically anything.
I know. Here's the thing. Everybody says that Epcot needs a new country, and I don't disagree with that one bit. The problem of it is that every time it's like having your big family come to your house and say, we're going to go out to dinner. And where do you want to go? And nobody could agree on where you're going to go for dinner. That's the same thing about which country should be added at the same time. You know what? I think Greece would be cool. I really do.
They're never going to do it. Not anytime soon. And once again, not to get political, but the way the economy is going over in Greece right now. And
good point.
Can't do it.
Because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times the countries contribute financially and planning wise to a lot of those pavilions. And, I think Greece would be really cool, but you're right. Now is not the time for it. That's for sure. You have some of the really cool areas. I tell you the truth, they have the African outpost.
Oh, that's got it. Poor Africa, that needs to be gutted and redone.
That's what I'm talking about. I think it would be awesome to have something, but then again, you also stop and think that you have the entire continent of Africa. What part do you represent? Do you represent South Africa? Do you represent the middle portion? Northern Africa? Most people when they think Africa, they think probably like South Africa. I don't know. It was just, it would be interesting to think about. I don't know what the answer is. I'll be
to tell you the God honest truth. I really think what Leslie and Tracy both said are going to be the answers here.
What's that? I didn't see that.
Tracy says, what about Brazil? And we all know about the Brazil population that travels to Disney and how much they enjoy it.
True.
So that it will be a huge draw. And then how about adding India? It has a huge population, so I think it'd be well represented and great food too. So those two countries you can make, which one do you pick?
You do a coin flip on that, and I would enjoy either one.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is South America, just in general, whether it be Brazil, Brazil or Argentina, things like that. All those areas would be really pretty cool.
Egypt's another country you won't see anytime soon.
No, probably not. India would actually be really kind of cool. The fact of the matter is, I have some close friends at work that are from India that are now U.S. citizens. And, the interesting part is that we would talk about, during some downtime, we would actually talk about things such as culture differences and food differences and differences in religion and politics and things like that. And really cool conversations. It's such a diverse culture. It would really actually be interesting to see what that would be like. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Your mileage may vary. Taxes not included. Void where prohibited by law.
So we're going to change gears a little bit. And Tanya wants to know, I wonder if it's the same Tanya that yelled at me. Tanya, no, it doesn't. I hope you're not the same person who yelled at me. But if you are, we appreciated that episode. Do you guys like doing solo trips? No, you're way too nice to be the same Tanya.
But for those of you who don't know, there was a Tanya that totally completely ripped on Danny for just a little things, and we decided to go ahead and address it over the air. That was back in January, if I'm not mistaken.
One of our most popular shows.
Yeah, a listener rips on Danny, and I did this. Woohoo! I'm gonna sit back and just go. Oh, anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the question was, she wants to know, do you guys like solo trips? Now, Chris, have you done a solo trip to Disney?
Well, I have not.
Sort of.
No.
Did you do downtown Disney that one day on your one?
Oh well, okay. Trip? I did go to downtown. I didn't go to the parks. I went to downtown Disney. I had a business trip. Everybody left early on a Thursday. My flight didn't leave until Friday morning. I went to downtown Disney for dinner. And I did some Christmas shopping and stuff like that. And it was really super crowded because of like one of the golf tournaments that were in the area. It wasn't really a solo trip, but again, I did visit somewhat solo. So it was kind of cool. I don't have too much of a point of reference, but we'll have to see how that goes. But Danny, you have, obviously.
I love my solo trips. They're so enjoyable. I'm trying to stay quiet because they're like families around me, and I'm like, don't want to say it. No, I really do enjoy, traveling with my family, but especially the bigger the group, the harder the trip becomes.
Sure.
And, I don't know, solo trips, Trisha nails on the head. You meet people, but yet you could do whatever you want and don't have to worry. And, I was talking to my girlfriend the other day about it, and it's just when I'm hungry, I'm hungry. If I want to ride something, I ride something. If I'm tired, I'm tired. I am in control of everything that happens. Does it get lonely at times? Sure. But, with my job, I'm out of the house all day. I've gotten so used to eating alone that it's just second nature to me now. I'm going by myself in June, and I'm going to a character breakfast by myself. Am I a little worried about that one? Yeah, sure. That's a little different. But, even Bailey says, she agrees because 15 of them went last month and it was a mess. It really is. Because you've got 15 people being their own people, pulling them different ways. And you want to please everybody. And, it always falls on one person's shoulder, with that. But, it is a little awkward at times, but I'm a very talkative person, as you guys can tell. So I can get in a line.
Really?
I see, sometimes I love just getting in standby lines and just talking to people. And
it is cool.
The worst thing is being in a standby line and being around people who don't want to talk back to me. Because half the time I play the heads up games like charades. Like I'll just pull it out and I'll ask a group of people, "You guys want to play?" Yeah, we'd love it. That'd be awesome. We talk Disney. Now it's a little bit easier. We have the business. We could talk that. But oh man, I love solo trips.
I will tell you this: even when I'm there with my family, the funny part is that we do tend to talk to people that are around us a lot. And, we're still friends with some people, connect on Facebook and whatever. It's really kind of interesting. You start talking to people. Yeah. Play heads up. Oops, sorry, just the mic there. Play heads up, talk Disney, talk about where people are staying. How do you like things? Where are you from? It's really cool when you can actually talk with other people in the Disney community, and it just becomes fun. Now, you know what? Those little 5 to 30-minute relationships are cool. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody wants to receive, be on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Type of thing. But sometimes you try, and who knows? And, I know Danny and I don't necessarily do it just because, we're podcasters. We do it just because it's who we are. I guarantee you that if any one of you, would be standing next to us, we'd be talking to you.
Oh, absolutely. So, guys, it is about that time for us to wrap up the show. We appreciate everybody who tuned into our podcast tonight. Our next scheduled podcast will be coming out, audio version only via iTunes and or Podcast Addicts or Google Play, whichever you do. Yep. That will be scheduled to release tomorrow. We will not be live until Tuesday at 9:45. With that being said, follow us on our social media platforms. Facebook is Behind the Ears Podcast. Instagram is Behind the Ears Podcast. Twitter is Behind the Ears PC. Any listener comments, questions, or concerns, please send them over to behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Behind the Ears Podcast. For me, guys, until next time, I am Uncle Danny, and I am signing out.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We've had a blast, and it's just been absolutely wonderful expanding our family here in the Disney community. And speaking of Disney community, feel free to follow us over at the Disney community, where we also continue our conversations. Also, while you're rating and reviewing over at iTunes, feel free to subscribe to the show as well, or feel free to subscribe from your favorite podcast app. And that way you can get the magic as soon as it is released. But until then, until the next time we meet, thanks again, and we hope you have an absolutely magical day. Take care.